Hello, everyone. My name is John Maddox. I teach Spanish at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I'm here with you all to celebrate the Seal of Biliteracy here in Alabama. And I have had the good fortune to be in the classroom for about 18 years. I spent 5 years as a high school Spanish teacher, and now I teach Spanish 1 through graduate courses. And so I'd like to talk today about the highest level of proficiency that our students can reach and how literature can be a part of that. Distinguished is the highest level of proficiency that our students can reach. They are educated and articulate users of the language. They will be students who can talk about a wide range of global issues and highly abstract concepts in a culturally appropriate manner. So it's focused on abstract things. To be distinguished level, you can use persuasive and hypothetical discourse for representational purposes, allowing students to advocate a point of view that is not necessarily their own. We're creating empathy and open-mindedness in our students, and that helps everybody. They can tailor language to a variety of audiences by adapting their speech and register in ways that are culturally authentic. So we have students who have the option of speaking in a formal register or an informal register to express themselves. A great resource to do that is called El Matadero. It is a short story by the Argentinian writer Esteban Echeverria. It's from the 19th century, and it hits all of these points. It's easily accessible. You can get it for free on the website ciudadseba.com, and it's a pretty simple story. It's the story of a very refined man who is tortured for the delight of barbaric people that work at the butchery. All right, we have the image of the butchery here. Matasiete is the bad guy that is supposed to torture this guy to death for the delight of the audience. And the enlightened man that is going to fall victim becomes so angry with the situation that his head just explodes. It's great. It's very 19th century in that sense. I think we've all had moments when we felt like that. The way that we start this with our students and that we encourage them to produce language and to communicate is to ask them, well, what does it mean to be conservative in the United States? And what does it mean to be liberal in the United States? And so I'm going to have a handful of points, all right? Which of these poles represents the church, for example, which represents the separation of church and state? Which of these poles represents rural people better than urban people? Which of these poles represents better racial minorities versus the majority culture? And then we have a long conversation, and students can express how they see things. They can explain why they believe what they believe, and we can encourage civil discourse in our classroom. And all the while, they are pursuing distinguished proficiency because they are expressing their points of views. They're talking about abstract things as well as interpreting other points of view about abstract things. Another abstract thing is religion. You have to understand religion in order to understand El Matadero by Echeverria. If for no other reason than to understand what Lent is. In the story, it's the time of Lent, and as you know, this is a time of fasting for many Christians. Historically, Catholics have observed Lent. Why is everyone Catholic in this environment? Well, that's because it was the official religion of the Spanish conquest. And so it's going to be associated with conservative people and conservative ideas. Well, the author, Echeverria, he is not a conservative person. He is a person who sees himself as a son of the Enlightenment, and he is living in a time of positivism. These are debates that go on to this day is like, what is the role of the church in modern society? What are the rights of people who are not religious? That fits into this whole conservative liberal debate as well. But we need to understand that, yes, the author is writing about Christian concepts, but he's writing from a different perspective. He's writing from the perspective of a person who is very, very critical of religious ideas and who's particularly very critical of the church as an institution. I said before that the church was part of the Spanish conquest. And so when this author is criticizing the church, he's not criticizing someone's personal specific beliefs. He's criticizing an arm of the government, and he's also criticizing his political opponents, because one could argue that he sees himself as more liberal than Matasiete and El Restaurador that El Matasiete works for. All right, so we have a very refined writer, a very refined protagonist. These are people that see themselves as civilized, and they see their opponents as barbaric. In this case, we're in the 19th century when there are civilized people and barbaric people, and nothing is politically correct. We know that things are much more complicated than that, and we've challenged the idea of who is civilized and who's not today. But in those days, civilization came from Europe, and European ideas and things were better than everybody else's. It was called Eurocentrism, or it's now called Eurocentrism. Back then, it was just called being civilized. So we've got the Unitarians, like the narrator, author, and protagonist, and then you've got the Federals. They were kind of like our Confederates in that they wanted to have a bunch of little countries next to one another that were all agrarian, and they were opposed to the idea of centralizing one big country around Buenos Aires, hence the Unitarians that wanted to unify the country. All right, so students are learning a little bit about history, geography, religion. They're going to learn a little about racial politics. The Unitarians, even though they were very, very progressive, wanted to make the country whiter. So they wanted to bring in European immigrants and get rid of the Black people. Well, the conservatives wanted to keep the Black people, but to work them as slaves. So you get the feeling that for the Afro-Argentines, that they did not have a lot of great options. And so that changes our notion of what conservative and liberal is, because we're in a different time, a different country, a different culture. But we see that different time affecting our realities today. We still have Argentinians who have a huge cultural impact from Italy. There's still a big divide between the cities and rural areas. And today, Argentina is one of the great world capitals of agribusiness. So we're learning a little bit more about the world today and how to express ourselves about it proficiently through literature. Thank you so much for your time. Again, my name is John Maddox, and I wish you all a great conference. Thank you. Bye-bye.